This is KPFA, KPFB in Berkeley, KFC up in Fresno. I'm your secret host, and Raymond is my secret guest here on Over the Edge, KPFA.
We spend the afternoon and evening playing cards.
Of course, we cannot and will not limitlessly enrich ourselves, as we hypothetically could, since doing so would not only be immoral but foolish, as it might lead to the exposure of our operations. After all, relatively small changes in amounts, especially those which apparently seem to profit nobody, go largely unnoticed or unsolved. They end up looking just like one of the hundreds of genuine errors made by the bean counters every year. It's the big money-grabbing crackers, like the Russians in Citicorp, who get snagged. Nonetheless, because of our access to this incredibly sensitive information, we have in fact been able to create a noticeable impact on some political landscapes, although these have gone largely unnoticed by the media. But the certain individuals targeted by our programs certainly know when they've been touched. It's akin to having a bucket of ice water thrown in your face. After all, there's nothing like finding out that your illegally generated Swiss bank account has suddenly and mysteriously been emptied. The ability to penetrate sensitive networks and data conduits has also given us an unprecedented glimpse into the underground machinery of the monetary transactions which serve to grease the wheels of political corruption and corporate abuse. Because the act of laundering large amounts of money is increasingly dependent on sophisticated computerized transactions, the development of extreme.
And what we accused them of was that they were afraid we were going to start a war. It didn't seem like anybody else wanted to go to war, so, and Dayton and Barack were back, and that was our intention.
The mission of a diplomatic agent may come to an end during his lifetime by the expiration of the period for which he has been appointed.
The mission of a diplomatic agent may come to an end during his lifetime, when the object of the mission has been attained. The mission of a diplomatic agent may come to an end during his lifetime by his recall, on his appointment elsewhere, or by his resignation and his acceptance by his own government. The mission of a diplomatic agent may come to an end during his lifetime by his recall, owing to the dissatisfaction of his own government, or at the request of the government to which he is accredited.
Are operating prisons, ostensibly as private citizens, but they are still doing the service of this network of right-wing covert operatives.
And it didn't sit right with some people.
He saves one life, saves the entire world.
He was taking the money.
Yes, they were.
He who saves one life, saves the entire world.
And those people who live very well. We didn't, but there were those that did.
Why,
Thanks, Mr. Taylor.
Gossip or loss of reputation to the officials.
Goodbye.
Who has been so unfortunate
Is to occur the displeasure of his official chief.
Jack Terrell is now a special investigator with the International Center for Development Policy in Washington. Who, Peter?
Well, they're often called back. There's an old saw that once you're in the CIA, you're never out of it. Going out on the streets.
And I should say, if properly used, entirely police-proof. The train has not only been washed, as they say, it has been dry cleaned.
To some extent.
Theodore Schachter, who was Assistant Deputy Director of Operations for the Central Intelligence Agency as of 1976, under George Bush, who was CIA Director at the time. Thomas Clines, who worked as a case officer under Shackley in Miami and in Laos. Rafael Chichi Quintero, an anti-Castro Cuban who worked under Clines and was allegedly recruited by the CIA as an assassin. General John Singlaub, who worked with Shackley and Clines in Vietnam and was in charge of the CIA's special operations over the border into Laos. General Richard Secord, who supervised the air operations into Laos and was later assigned to the Pentagon, where he was put in charge of arms sales to Iran. Albert Hakim, who was a salesman for U.S. weapons companies and a middleman in the Iran-Contra affair. As usual, to intimate to him that he may come away on leave of absence.
I wouldn't believe it would be Bonaldi because I just gave his name and requested preventive detention. To torture him. Two days later, when I was meeting with the Chief of Police Intelligence, it turned out to be Bonaldi. The police intelligence chief had not ordered this torture and interrogation, but one of the higher officers, who was known as a sadist, had done it. Well, of course, those are sounds that I'll never forget.
What his presence is desired at home.
The victim's hands are tied behind her back,
in order that he may be consulted.
The rope is thrown over a pulley and...
The mission of a diplomatic agent may come to an end during his lifetime.
She is hoisted up to the ceiling
by the outbreak of war.
Now heavy weights are attached to her feet.
Between two states.
50, 100, 200 pounds.
The mission of a diplomatic agent may come to an end
until her arms are wrenched out of their sockets
during his lifetime.
She dangles screaming that she is ready to confess anything they want.
By disposition or abdication.
Forget the man's name either.
Okay.
Extremity of the clandestine.